Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It is great to see you at this different time, just this once, 12:30. Let's see. I hope everybody got the message. It is half an hour later. I had physical therapy and I was really worried I wouldn't be able to make it back. I made it back in plenty of time. Now we know. So hopefully our buddies catch up with us and hopefully I am indeed live. It says I'm live. Linda B, great to see you. Kaz, great to see you. I see you ordered the mini punch kit with what do I call it? Mushroom Hill. I thought that was a very nice design too. I'm going to be doing that myself. Michelle, great to see you. Good morning. You're out on your breezy deck, plying hand spun from your black Shetland. Big love back to you. That sounds super, super, super fun. Oh, and I got my book today, the yarn spinning. It's for drop spindle. So I'm going to start playing with that, and I'm going to open up all those bats I have. Remember all the, I just saw I littered. I'm going to use it as a bookmark, but all the mini bats that I got at the Wisconsin Sheep and Fiber Festival. I'll be playing with those probably next week. There we go. It looks like I'm live. Gayla, great to see you. Crystal, great to see you. Oh, I know you've been busy, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Betsy, great to see you. Good morning. Marilyn, good morning. Great to see you. Ryan, happy Wednesday. Peace and love to you too. How's your project going? Did you send me any pictures for gallery night? And just a reminder, gallery night is this coming Friday. So I'm running gallery night this coming Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please go ahead and send to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com the projects that you're working on, all of your ideas, all of that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm off center. Hopefully I'm centered enough. I'm never centered. Who is centered enough, right? Besides like the Dalai Lama, but I am certainly not. I am a little uncentered from having the needles in my neck and shoulder again with this nerve thing, but it must be working, right? We said that this was normal to get tons of needles wiggled around inside your skin. It's normal, right? So it's going to be good. It just was very uncomfortable today. And I shouldn't think about it. Linda says, learning to use a drop spindle with you it will be good fun. I so wish now that I am committed to having bought that huge amount of beautiful bats that are filled with glitter, confetti, multicolored, very seasonal for really Halloween and autumn, right? My favorite. I'm really committed after having bought them to learning to do the drop spindling because I really feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I really feel like using the fiber in that form, right? Just drop spindle, breaking it away and creating very sort of unspun looking, kind of roving like, but a little more refined than that. I feel like that form is the closest to the bat itself, right? Weird conversation, weird sentence. But I don't want to really change the look of the bats. So I'm trying to find a form other than a big hunk of cotton candy that I could actually use to hook with that will be really, really reminiscent of the bats themselves. So I'm trying to figure that out, and we'll figure that out together. Danny, great to see you this morning. I never see you during the day. Yeah, you know what? It is the dry needling. I'm sure it does help. It's definitely been better. I have been waking up with crazy pain. The fact that it was in my neck, right in a knot, was bound to be painful because it's really not painful. That was just an extraordinary one. She hit the target with that one, as she should, right? That's her job. Joyce, great to see you in Pennsylvania. Dave, unexpected to see you. I'm very happy to see you. Good afternoon. You have coffee and a Nanamo bar. What's a Nanamo bar? I'm going to have to Google that. Working on Automagic. I love Automagic. I can't wait to get back to Automagic. Is one of the free patterns I put out a couple of weeks ago. It's like a bunch of flowers, very primitive composition, but on the tulips, if you like, it says Automagic spelled out almost like a sampler. So I am working on that. I still have that one at home. I have a few other things I want to show you before we get started with content. I'm sorry I missed you on Monday. I was in pain on Monday. And I just could not get myself together to do stuff with slides and get on the computer, and I was just dragging myself around in an extraordinary way. So definitely better today. It was a very rainy day on Monday, and I'm hoping that my future is not going to revolve around the weather. Like I don't feel well and I'm all achy if the weather's bad. I'm really hoping that's not the case. If it is, I'll figure it out and we'll still keep going. So I'm gonna do a couple more videos today. I put out a video yesterday. Let me see if I have it in our slideshow. I just want to do catch-ups first, Tell me if my fan is too loud. I just have the breeze happening. Okay, this is what I wanted to pull up. Boom. This is Sleepy Owl. So this is one of the patterns that was exclusive to the Advent calendar with some little barns in the background. And I put out a video a couple of days ago. Whether you have the Advent calendar or not, it's maybe a fun video to watch because it's about using elements from the drawn piece of paper that came in the Advent calendar and transferring them onto backing, creating a composition that is uniquely your own, or you can use this composition, or you can use it as is, the way that it was coming out, whatever you want. But this hooked for me in less than 2 days. It's quite small. It's probably, I would say 10 by 12, something like that. And I used scraps of old wool, and I used some of the yarns because I'm saving a lot of the really plush yarns for a project I'm doing later today. But I used some of the yarns as the little fences and as the branch that little owl is resting on. I know he has sweet little sleepy eyes. She, I keep saying he, but it definitely looks more like a girl, probably because of the amount of eyeshadow that she's wearing. But I love the pattern. It was fun. It was easy. That video came out. And there's another video coming out. I was hooking the pumpkin. I have to check and make sure you open that. There was another pumpkin pattern. All of the patterns in the Advent calendar are exclusive to the Advent calendar. So we already saw Jill of Jack and Jill, the pumpkin-headed characters. And I still haven't finished her dress, but I will do that. That's Mini Punch. So I was in a different sort of track lately with hooking again, doing that one. And then I started the big scarf project where the scarf is the background, the cut up scarf with scissors is the background. That video comes out later today. I was working on that, and the front of it is the pistachio pumpkin. So that's what's happening now. And I'm also going to do a video either today or tomorrow. I'm being very careful here because I have a giant doll needle. But I have a bunch of the felt balls. So I'll be doing a felt ball trivet. You have 2 bags with these felt balls in the autumn colors. These purple ones are left over from the project I did for the first book, the chapter that got cut. So I'm going to be releasing the video showing you how to use these felt balls, and I'm using a doll needle, right, which is a long needle that goes right up the doll's body, right. This is a little too much for me right now in light of the morning of needling, but it's this kind of a needle that I use because I want a long needle so I can go through several balls at once and go in different directions, right. So I'll be doing a video on that either today or tomorrow. That's one of the next things that's happening. I keep forgetting also, hang on, I'm going to walk off camera for a minute. But one of the other projects in the box, and I'm not sure you've got there yet, I am also going to do a video just to say these are the things like that are in the box, right? Because we're at a point where it's not such a spoiler alert. I think there's 4 of these in your box, and 4 pumpkins, right, that I cut on my actual Sizzix, not like the strip Sizzix, but the Sizzix that cuts shapes for scrapbooking. So I cut a bunch of wool pumpkins, and we're going to be doing a sewing project, an applique project, where we're putting, you know, a pumpkin inside a square. It's going to be a sewing project, but wool applique. You can also use your pumpkins and your wool. If you don't like the idea of doing a sewing project, then you can just cut up your squares and use them for hooking. You might want to use your you could also just sew your pumpkin like 2-sided as like you know, a little stuffed thing, a little door thing or whatever, but I'm going to be sewing them applique and using some applique stitches, right, some fancy stitches onto a backing and creating a little wall hanging of 4. So I won't be doing that today. I think that's a little bit later in the month. There's a few projects I need to catch up on. It was it was about 12 projects in this month's Advent calendar. So that's all coming up. Here, let me put this away. Oh, I lost the needle. Lost the needle. Didn't you know that that was going to happen? Uh-oh. That is the last thing that I want to stand on, that giant needle. Oh, man, you got to be kidding me. All right, well, maybe remind me at the end that I lost a giant needle, because it is not there. All right, we'll see what happens next. That makes me very nervous. It's got to be somewhere. It is enormous. Anyway, oh, here we go. Whew, that scared me. That's not something I want to step on the wrong way, you know. So those videos are coming up for you a little bit later, more tomorrow. Pretty much every day there's going to be some videos for you that relate to the Advent calendar. I put out a bunch of, and I'm doing another leaf one today with some of the big yarns from this set. I don't think you've opened all your big yarn yet, but there's a lot in there. I'm working on some other projects I want to talk to you about, and then we'll conclude our look at the Cream City Rug Show from Wisconsin. Kaz, you can buy the doll's needles at Joann's. They should definitely have them. Really long. I mean, you could the thing with the felt balls, right? So two things about the felt balls. I like the doll's needle because, like I said, I can be sewing through one ball on an angle and then catch the next one, which is what you need to do with this. I'm also going to be sending written directions to the people who got the advent calendar. So if the video isn't working for you, I know people learn differently and capture information differently. You'll be getting a written version of that too, a step by step with the felt balls. So more on that. But the thing that the needle needs to be to do the felt ball trivet. And by the way, if you're making a trivet and you're loving it, you might say to yourself, this is going really well. I need like another 200 balls to do a full rug, right? And your trivet might just end up being the ruglet that starts you on a much larger rug or something for the table. So that's a possibility too. You can do something you can always end when I end with the felt ball project and then expand it later, just like a braided rug, right? It can grow later. It's also possible to dye your own balls, right? So you can get the white ones in the same size that I have. I'll give you all that information in that video. And you can dye them yourself if you prefer. Or maybe do one row that's solid, like the autumn colors that I gave you, and then one row that's white or dyed, right? And then another row that's solid, also possible. So we'll talk all about that in that video. But the thing that the needle needs to be is sharp, right? Long is ideal, so that's why I say a doll needle is perfect. But it has to be sharp. It can't be a tapestry needle. It has to have a very sharp tip because the balls are very, very, very dense. Ouch. So, Sharon, great to see you. Good morning in Vancouver. Great to see you. So we have a couple of projects with needles that are coming up, and I'm going to be working on a different leaf project tonight. There's actually leaves on the ground at last. So I'm going to have the kids collect some leaves, and I'm going to use them as a stencil to do one of the sort of checkerboard patterns. I'll make a video of that tonight using some of the wools I have left over from the advent calendar. So a bunch of stuff like that coming up. But I did make a departure on Monday because I was not feeling great and I didn't come to the studio. But for whatever reason, I felt like working on designs, which doesn't always happen. And as we always say, you know, when you are hot on something, whether it's designing or making or finishing your projects or whatever, or laundry or books or whatever, it's good to do that thing when you're feeling it, right? It really is, isn't it? Because when you force yourself to do projects, just because I'm doing them at the same time, sometimes you're just not feeling it. And I just feel like that comes through. If you're doing creative work, that comes through, even with craft projects that are just your hands working. So it's always best to do stuff when you feel like it, right? Which further emphasizing the idea that if you are working on advent calendar stuff, it's a lot of projects at once. So do them as you feel like it, because those videos will always be there. I started working on some designing stuff, and I came up, let me show you, I think I have some here. I came up with some new designs for autumn that I'm really excited about. I already had a ton in the ribbon candy hooking shop that I have not gotten to yet, but this is one of the new ones that I did. I centered it in the end. I had it off center, which I decided against, and I centered it in the end with or without the text, sweater weather. And I put the text, I thought I didn't want the text, and then I did. So I wrote sweater weather on top of it. So this is quite large. This is 25 across, the way that I have it right now. Where's the camera? There's the camera. So I'm really loving this project. Little witch walking through the forest, not dressed up for Halloween night yet. She does have her sweater on, and it's like a sweater dress. It reminded me of the Benetton days of the late 80s and 90s. But yeah, and now I'm searching for these sweater dresses like crazy. So that's one of the projects I'm going to be working on immediately. And with this, because it's called sweater weather, I could hook it or punch it however I want, but I think I want to do the whole thing with sweaters. So this is going to be another great thrift project to remind you everything that you have that's a textile around you, right, is a possibility, right? Particularly things that you don't want anymore, like this sweater that is never going to fit again, and there's like holes in the armpits. I could fix that, but my main problem is that it's a medium. It's not even that small. It's a medium. I am not a medium anymore. That's for sure. I used to be so proud of going, I'm a medium, and now it's like, phew, not even a medium anymore. But I'm going to cut it up because I love this sweater, and I feel like I can do better with this, like possible sky or something. It's not a ton, right? I'm probably looking at 1/5 of what of this medium sweater to cut it down and make it into something. But I was thinking about that possibly for this project. I don't know if I have enough. The wool diva, she looks like she has angel wings, does she? Oh, let me see. I wonder if it's the way the trees are all lined up. I didn't even notice that. Oh, it's her hair. It's her bun. Yep. That the tiny little thing on top. That's a pony. I was struggling with what kind of hairstyle to give her. At first I gave her typical like crazy witch hair. And then I thought, well, she's probably slumming it a little bit with her sweater. She's not dressed up for the event yet. So I gave her like a ponytail. But obviously also with my patterns, you can change them to be whatever you want. You never have to. Sometimes people write and say, can I do this with one of your patterns? It's like, I love having these conversations because it's fun, but you never have to ask me, right? It's yours. It's always yours. So I was thinking about alternately blues for this guy. What I really want to do is make her dress. I want her dress to be like the feature. I want it to be striped in lots of different colors. I think. It might end up that you see it striped in like orange and black, but I'm not sure. I don't want her to look like a bee. I'm not sure. So I'm debating about that. I have boxes and boxes and boxes of sweaters, like in so many different colors. Nice, you see this nice magenta here. There's some nice teals. There's, the cobalt is excellent. You know, these are scraps of things I've used for other projects. This is a VCR box or something, printer box. But I mean, there are like 4 tubs of them on the floor in there. So I was thinking about possibly doing some. This is a zip up. So this has got a few problems if you're deconstructing something like this. It's also got these little like sort of pom-pom balls, right? So I would have to remove those. Obviously, those are not going to hook. You know, it's interesting to think about removing them and using them in the composition. I'm just thinking where. If I wanted her dress to be more ornate, I might sew those onto the bottom as a fringe or something like that. I probably won't waste them. They'll probably go into a jar of some sort. But see, the problem with this, I can use a lot of this sweater, and it's already been through the wash, so it's a little bit fulled, but not felted. But that's how I want it, because I need to be able to hook with it, particularly with my hands being so bad lately. So this is a sweater that has a lot of meat on the bone, but it does have a lot of decoration too. And typically braids and argyle stuff is not good for hooking, right? You want to maybe cut this stuff off and save it for another time. Might make a nice wristband or something like that. But I'm really going to be just using the main parts of it. I can also use ribbed if I want to, and I typically cut for hooking with sweaters, I cut the ribbing with the ribbing, typically. Because if I do it this way, you can do it this way, but it will be super, super, super textured. So be sure you're ready for that. And if you're hooking with any kind of sweaters, you really want to do it in a loose backing, like burlap or linen. You're going to really struggle if you try to hook sweater material into rug warp. It's really not going to work. Or monk's cloth. I feel it still does not work great because it's possible, but you have to, because those backings are so tight, you need to cut your strip so thin, and typically a sweater won't allow you to cut it that thin and then pull it through and abuse it that way, because it's not strong enough because of the way that it's machine knit, right? Most sweaters. Also pillow backs. Absolutely, that's a great idea for something like this. That would be an amazing pillow back, wouldn't it? With all that decoration. So that's a great idea, actually. If I don't use, I'll probably just use the sort of fronts of this where it's nice and smooth. And pillow back would be great for a different project. I know some people are doing some pillow stuff with the advent calendar pieces, so I'm curious to see those. And then I've got small pieces, like this is cashmere. It's been through the wash. This is an interesting one too. These are all ones that I pulled because they have blue. And I thought if I feel like I need a much larger sky than what that medium sweater can provide, I might be looking at a blue sky. But then I found this blue with like a bronzy brown, right? It's a much lighter brown than I think the monitor is showing. Also great, would give me kind of like a peppermint stripey thing. Could be interesting for tree trunks, could be confusing. Might be that I need to test it. But I pulled out a ton of different sweater blues, all different kind of cornflower, periwinkle, light teals, right? All different values of blue, all different sweaters. These are just there. And then a few I don't want the composition to get too busy. I'm going to put those down in a minute. Let me put them down right here. Hang on. I don't want to lose all those pieces because they're so good. This one's still very tempting, though. I'm going to really have to think about that and look at how much I need. And then I found some darker ones, like this pretty. You probably can't tell, but it's definitely dirty. But it's super heathery. It's kind of purpley and blue. It's mixed. It's very vibrant. Not showing up well on the monitor at all, but it's very vibrant and it's dark. So I don't know about that because I really have to make a decision at the onset about what the witch is going to look like. Like, do I want her skin tone to be like a green witch or like a supernatural skin tone? Or do I want her to have like a human flesh colored skin tone, and how light versus how dark? What about the sweater? Do I want the sweater to be brights, lights? What do I want it to be? Do I want it to be like 20 different colors just striped right up her body? Do I want it to alternate? Do I want it to be autumn colors? Because if I make it, for example, orange and black, then we're talking about something that looks more like a costume, right? Because you don't, I mean, I'm sure it exists, an orange and black striped sweater, but you're not seeing that all the time. You do see a lot of autumn sweaters that are just lots of autumn colors and stripes, right? They're going to have them at like LL Bean and Pendleton, and all those places are going to do autumn colors. So you have to make these decisions at the beginning. Do I want to put my foot down on the pedal and full blast Halloween, do something with Halloween colors? Because then her costume really stands out, and then really I can do anything I want with the background. It would look very good having an orange and black sweater with this background, wouldn't it? It would be so unexpected. So the question, I think, is going to be how much meat is here, and how big is that pattern? Because there are a lot of trees in the pattern too. So it could be that sweater can make it. I feel like it's a good chance that sweater can make it. I think that's my first choice, right? We just worked that out together. And I was going to do, I could use the blues for the trees, right? There's nothing wrong with doing alternate colors, right? It's fun to do something different. But I probably will end up doing autumn colors, like yellows, oranges, things like that. So that's a to be continued, but it is fun to go through old sweaters. It's a good time of year for it too, right? And if you have charity stores near you, remember to go to like the extra, extra, extra large section first, work your way backward. Because if you're going to spend $4.99, $7.99, $9.99 on a sweater, you want to be sure that you have a lot of meat there, right? Because if you're buying sweaters, it's going to add up quickly, isn't it? I also found this pretty sweater, which is highly textured. So wondering if I could pop it, if I could finish the sides, because I've obviously cut the sleeves off or done something else with it. But I wonder if I could pop it over as a poncho. It's very scratchy. But I do love the ombre way that it looks, right? We've got 4 shelves of color here. It is textured at the bottom. It's quite textured, about like a basket weave. Oh, it's a subtle basket weave here. I think it's like an inverted. And then this is like more like a seed stitch kind of a thing. So it does have 4 different textures. So I'd have to be thoughtful about what I would try to hook this into. But God, it's so pretty, isn't it? Another nice pillow back. You know what else I could do with this? Uh-oh, here it is. You know what else I could do with this? Oh, okay, this is it. I'm going to cut it at the shoulders because I got 2 nice squares, and I'm going to hook into it. I'm going to hook into it. That's what I'm going to, that's exactly what, I'm going to do the Pearl McGowan style Jacobean tree with all those crazy paisley leaves and have this as the background, right? So just hooking a tree onto it, I think. But I think I'm better off using this as a background because it's so beautiful and it already has that built-in texture. And there's lots of colors within each shelf. Done. All right. See, it's great to talk these things through because I just figured that out. That's exactly what I want to do with that. An orange will be so nice with those purples. Nutty pumpkin coffee. Fantastic. This is another idea I had when we went to Delaware, Maryland. Remember over the summer I was gone for a few days doing that. At antique stores, I found lots of these. Remember these chiffon scarves? I mean, I'm not sure if people still wear these over their hair. My grandmother always used to wear like a colored chiffon scarf, Audrey Hepburn style, over her hair while she was like in the car or even walking outside. And they have such nice connotation for me. Some of them are printed like this, but they're still sheer. So of all of the shops that Jay and I went to on our antiquing bender in that part of the country, oh, I just noticed this one has a little pattern too. I have more, but I picked up all of the ones that were even remotely fall colors. Yeah, that's a nice patterned one too. But these are gonna, just like the video I'm working on now, hooking with a scarf, because there is a scarf in your advent calendar that's more silky. These are chiffon, right? And they're synthetic. So these are, they are gonna wanna fray, but they are going to look beautiful hooked. And for example, this is my favorite. This is, you probably can't tell, but it's several shades of purple. I might have to quadruple this one up to get, can you see there's like, it's blushing in places. Like the edges are kind of a blush color. These are going to hook up so beautifully also to use in some of these fall projects I have in mind. I got a couple of, got more than a couple of different shades of whites and ivory, because each one is slightly different. Can you see that? And then I got like the black ones. So I got greens, oranges, blacks, purples. That's pretty much it. So just another idea to accompany whatever project you're working on. One more thing I want to show you before we look at the other stuff. I forgot to show you this from Friday night when I was showing you the loot from the Wisconsin Sheep and Fiber Festival. From this one stall, oh, and I didn't write which stall it was. I picked up her 2 bags of loops. These are cotton loops, like for doing potholder weaving, right, on one of the little frames. But man, these are going to hook up great. And these were the 2, they were $5 each, these bags. These are cotton. My favorite ones are nylon because they're more like pantyhose material. But these are cotton loops, right? And they almost look like towel material, like terry cloth. And yeah, they're probably going to be a mess. They're like, there's bits falling off of them as we look. But they are going to be beautiful hooked. They're going to provide a lot of texture, a lot of color. They're very light gray, like a light dove gray, like a blue gray, with these pops of orange on them. And I was very excited about that because I haven't got a project in mind yet, but I have about 200 Halloween patterns, and I'd like to do them all sooner rather than later. I thought this could be a wonderful sky for something like that. So it just goes to show you, it looks like terry cloth, but it's not terry cloth. Obviously, it's thinner. By terry cloth, I mean towel material, right? Because towel material could be tricky. It has no stretch, whereas these are jersey, and they do have stretch, right? Almost like the bands, right? You can see the jersey right there. The kind of texture that these are, almost like bands that people might wear to the gym. You know, if you have the nerve to wear like a sweatband to the gym. I need one. I just don't have the nerve to wear one. I feel like flash dance or whatever. So super fun. Another great idea. These aren't super stretchy, I have to say. I don't think there's any synthetic content to them. I think the reason they're stretchy is because of the way that they are manufactured, right? They're like done on a machine, and they're done on like a knitting machine, right? Because you can knit cotton, obviously. Oh, camera's playing up. But I don't think there's any synthetic content, but they will stretch because of the knit, right? They stretch actually a lot. So that'll be fun too. That's another to be continued. But this is all stuff that I find when I see it. And oh, the purple one matches your hair, does it? Oh, you like the purple one, the purple scarf, the one with the hints of purple in it. Oh man. All right. Let me think on that. I love that scarf, but I don't have a project in mind for it. It is pretty if you have like the purple in your hair right now, which is always pretty. It has the flowers are a little bit flocked, you know, like velvety flock. It's not velvet, but they feel like they're flocked a little bit. Just all of this cool kinds of, you know, manufacturing that was done years ago. Obviously, it's changed a lot over the years. Some of these old materials really are perfect to hook with. Like I'm really wondering how all this chiffon stuff is gonna hook. It's synthetic, right? It's synthetic chiffon, right? It's like sheer. I don't know how to describe it because I don't know what you would call it, and we really don't use this material anymore. It's not super in fashion, but it is beautiful. I'm wondering if some of these, like this little orange one, yeah, no, this is totally. It's definitely like poly, like it's all poly. But yeah, but you can see once you get a loop going, it would make it, even just a small loop, just folded in half, right, is going to make it a little bit more opaque, but I think still give it a bit of a different quality to it. Like you're going to look at whatever I hook and think, oh, that is not wool, right? Or t-shirt material or whatever. So, all right, so let's come back over here. So this is something you're going to see evolving. Could you punch, could you mini punch chiffon? No. I'm sure that you can't. And the reason is just with a mini punch, even the largest, right? Because mini punch officially comes, mini punch is Russian punch, and officially it comes in 3 different sizes, the tips. So I'm going to answer this in 2 ways. True mini punch, like the Russian punch, the really mini, it's almost like a syringe, the needle. It's that kind of size. So there's no way that you could cut the chiffon small enough that it could go through the mini punch and not get trapped. But of the traditional punches, right, not mini punch, but traditional punch, Amy Oxford sells the mini size, which is the smaller size. I also sell pretty much the same needle, but it's called the regular. No, it's called, I'm sorry, the fine. It's the fine, right? It's just got a smaller nib on it. And that would be able to accommodate pieces of the chiffon scarves. That would. And probably, I was going to say probably a regular punch needle would too. Probably would, but it probably would be too big now that I'm thinking of it, because it would make a giant hole to accommodate the thing it was punching, and then the thing that was punching would be like, here I come. And it would be very small and maybe not hold its spot, right, in the hole that you just punched. So I would go, for punching chiffon, I would go with the traditional fine punch, or however you call it, whoever you buy it from. I only sell the fine one, so that's an easy one to figure. And Amy Oxford sells it's a fine punch, but it's called the mini, the smallest one, which would be great for smallest height, smallest shaft. It would be great for the chiffon. So both of those would work great. Let's see. So this is the guy you're going to see. This is the girl you're going to see me working on in the very near future. I'm going to work on this one too. I'm going to reshape her a little bit, but the idea for this, and I'm going to figure it out as I evolve the idea, so I'm not ready to put it out as a pattern yet, but her dress, she is a pumpkin, right? And the stump of the pumpkin is her bodice. So she's called Madame Stumpy. And I'm figuring out how I want to do this, but I love it as an idea. I'm probably going to do it very primitive with a lot of hand-dyed material. So it's very atmospheric, like a night scene in the back, maybe purple flowers, color changing. And then her skirt, I've got to reshape it a little bit, but her skirt is going to be like exactly like a pumpkin. And the way that it's hooked with the brown bodice and the orange bottom, she will look like a pumpkin, but a little bit more interesting. So I'm still playing with this design, but I'm loving it so far. And I'm going to do that as traditional hooking. And this is Mushroom Hill. This I've been working on as recently as this morning. I have 3 variations on it. I only had time to get 2 online before I had to go to my physical therapy. So there's one more that you're not seeing, but there's 3 variations. This is either sold as a pattern for a traditional hooking or punch, so larger. I think it's like 15 inches, something like that. It's in the website, or mini punch. And if it's mini punch, it's kitted as nighttime, night, dusk, and then I did day. But I didn't have time, like I said, to put day onto the slideshow. So it can look like this, and then there's one variation that's even brighter. So, oh, and then I got this ready for us because I was due for another hook along. Thanks, Marilyn. I love the lady with the flowers too. I really love it. I think it's going to be easiest for me to figure it out while I start working on it. That's usually what happens. Once I start getting the colors in and stuff, I'll look at the way that it's balancing itself out and color-wise, see what's possible. I was also thinking about, the flowers on that Madame Stumpy piece. Let me bring it back up. I was also thinking about the possibility of, in quilting, yo-yos. Hold on. Oops, wait a minute. Let me go back one more. The yo-yos, the round yo-yos that like the 1920s Depression era circles that are like gathered on one side. I was thinking about the possibility of doing like an applique yo-yo on the flowers behind her, or maybe adding more flowers behind her and then putting these 2 as 3-dimensional yo-yos. I'm also thinking about that because I do have a lot of quilt material, and I still, with the first and second books overlapping, I haven't gotten time to pump up any quilting videos or crossover quilt videos where I'm using quilting techniques and drug hooking techniques. I'll be doing that ASAP. But I was thinking about that because they do remind me of those yo-yos, you know. So that's another possibility. I'm thinking about that a lot, and I'll probably work on that right after. Oh, Marilyn, you made a ton of yo-yos, but never made anything out of them. You know, it could be a cool piece to do. Again, it could be a cool piece to do with the yo-yos, and it could be a cool piece to like frame with yo-yos too. I had a. I'm not a medium anymore. I hope I will be soon because I went to the gym yesterday for the first time in dog's years, and I went on a hike with Teddy. Somebody at school called him fat. So I lost my mind last night when I heard that because, you know, he is, you know, we could do better, but he's so handsome and he's such a good person, and he is going to be like his father is, like 6'5". And I think he's probably going to stretch out with all his whole layer. You know, he's going to stretch out. But it made me very angry to hear that some girl. So, whew, it's a good thing she's 10, is all I can say. But yeah, so he wanted to exercise, so we went hiking yesterday. We're going to go hiking again today. Probably go hiking every day until we figure it out. I hate other kids. I hate them. So I know that sounds strong, but it's not strong enough. Kaz says, if you do yo-yos with quilt material, why don't you hook the skirts with ribbon? The ribbon that I bought from Icon. Oh, that's a great idea. I'm looking around to see. Remember the ribbon I showed you on Friday? It was like in a ball, and it really was like almost transparent ribbon, and it was kind of painted a little. That would be really interesting. Oh, I like that idea, Kaz. Thanks for the reminder on that. That's a great idea because I do want to make a dress out of that ribbon. Interesting. What I was going to say, thank you. I know he's so loved and he's such a good boy. And he was acting like it wasn't that big of a deal. And he didn't even tell me. I overheard him telling his friend, and twice. So I think he was trying to work it out with his friend who's in the middle school. He's not even in his class anymore. And the friend is like also struggles with weight, you know. So I think it is kind of a thing with these autistic kids. Like, the texture of the food they eat is a really big deal, right? It's a massive gag reflex problem. It's not like, oh, he's just difficult or spoiled. He doesn't want to eat that. There's a lot of things he's just not going to eat anytime soon. And, you know, we end up with burgers and chicken. Tonight I'm just chicken breast with like barbecue sauce over pasta. He's not big on pasta because no matter how you cook it, it's slimy. It's a lot, you know. So he ends up eating like energy bars and stupid stuff and a lot of carbs and a lot of bread. So yeah, exactly. Her parents do need, you know, I wish I knew who she was, but he won't tell me because I've said a few things in public to children who are bothering him in the past. I can't say them here, but yeah, there was some incidents. One at a skate park where I knew that one boy and his buddy were making fun of Teddy, and he didn't realize they were making fun of him, and it was breaking my heart. So I went over to the kid smiling, and I said, I'm going to edit what I say. But I said, are you being a good friend with my son Teddy, or are you being a little beep, 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 beep? And the kid was just like, and 5 seconds later, he was cool for 5 seconds, and then he got on his bike and he rode off with his friend. And I thought, there we go. There we go. He's going to think about it next time he's going to be rude to someone and there's other people around, because I think these kids think that they live in a vacuum and that there's no consequences. I mean, I didn't handle it right, for sure. But I definitely frightened that boy. And I don't think he's going to be bothering anybody, honestly, at the skate park soon, because he's going to wonder if all moms are as crazy as I am, right? So anyway, yo-yos. So I did have a skirt that was much smaller. I probably still have it in the basement, that is made of hundreds of yo-yos. It's vintage. And they were kind of like, kind of rayon-y, kind of like Indian material, like a bit like shiny and nubby, maybe like fake raw silk, if you see what I mean, made into hundreds of yo-yos and just sewn like tears, you know, tears of yo-yos. Beautiful skirt. Maybe a few more visits to the gym and I can get back. It has an elastic waist, but maybe I can get back. And you know, it was a cool design because the top of it was like a yoke, right? So it was just dropped, like it was just tight. And then right around the hips, it started these layers straight down. So it wasn't like it wasn't a super like boho hippie type skirt with big flare. It was straight down, but with all of these rows of yo-yos. It's really beautiful and delicate looking. Um, bullies do stink. That's it, isn't it? It's bullies. And bullies still exist for grown-ups, right? I'm sure you have all felt the pinch of sitting next to someone who is a grown-up bully, at some point in your life, and yeah, it stinks. So, so this is another project that I was working on that is the next hook along. I realized we need a project for the hook along. Let's do another wool strips hook along. This is based on one of my favorites, Maud Lewis's Fluffy Cat, but it's a pumpkin shape. So this can be done with, you can do this as like a stuffed thing, right? Like as like flat, like a, put it on a stick or something like that. Like some of my, I'm looking to see if I have any, don't see them in here, some of my sugar skull pumpkins. Um, but you could do it as something with just like a wool back or a cotton back or a denim back and stuff it a little bit. Or you can hook it out to the edges and frame it in like an 8x10 frame, which is what I'm going to end up doing. So it looks like this, and I'm coloring it like this. So Fluffy is going to be like a Halloween cat, like a black cat, and the colors of like the fern leaves, Super Maud Lewis, are going to be reds, and I'm going to do like a hand-dyed purple for the background of the pumpkin, and that's what and the face, obviously the greens and the pink and the brown stump are going to be super unusual colors, and I'm going to sit with you. I don't have my phone. Oh yeah, I do have my phone. I'm going to sit with you on, let's see what day I made it. It's later in October because it is a bit of a Halloween-y vibe, isn't it? Where's my hook along? Where'd I put that? I feel like it is, gosh, I don't think I put it on my calendar incredibly. If any of you know off the top of your head, um, yeah, I'm going to have to find it. It's at the end of October. But I'm going to be hooking it start to finish. I'm not going to hook the border because not everybody will complete the border, and some people will want this to be a three-dimensional piece. And if I hook the border as well, then we're talking about, 4 more hours, 3 more hours. So I'll probably be with you about 3 hours to complete this piece, and it will be a great event for people who like to hook, for people who like Halloween, for people who want this pattern. It's available as a pattern alone or as a kit. And I will be hooking on live, so you don't need either of those things to actually, hi Brenda, to actually complete it, right? If you've got stuff at home and you just want the pattern, or you just want to log on for company and get some tips, you have other projects you're working on, you want to watch me start hooking live, be great for beginners, be great for just company, right? Crystal says you also have a lot of food and sensory issues there. You can really relate. Good for you for standing up to those jerks. Thank you. Thank you. It's like when I think about the way that things were years ago when I was growing up in Catholic school, there was a lot of screwing signet rings into people's heads, right? From the nuns. That was like what they did when they were frustrated. And when I think about it now, and I love all the nuns. They've all passed away a long time ago. Thank you, Lisa. Wednesday, October 25th. Perfect. Right before Halloween. And we'll get it done that night, too. I'm going to get it done that night, and you will be very close behind me, right? Without a doubt. So you get it done for Halloween, and then you'll have it for every future Halloween. But when I think about the way things were, and I think about my friends now, because I'm still friends with like everybody, we've only had, out of 32 kids, only 2 people in my class have passed away, which is still kind of crazy, but both from heart attacks, but and both guys. When I think about who those people are today, it makes a lot of sense. Like some of them are obviously autistic, and we just didn't even say that word back then. And the nuns were very frustrated with certain behaviors that are just signature behaviors. There's so much more awareness now. There's so much more knowledge. It's not just bad behavior or being belligerent or being a ding dong. They used to go, "Oh, you're a ding dong." That's probably why I say that now. But thank God it's very different, and people understand a bit better. But yeah, kids are just as rotten as ever. They're just not going to change. So all I can do is stand up for him and say things to kids when I get the opportunity. So those events are coming up, and I hope you'll look. Hopefully you got the newsletter from me, because there's quite a few new products in the Ribbon Candy Hooking store. Very fun, very seasonal, lots happening. Let's return to our look at the Cream City rug show at the Fiber Festival in Wisconsin. So I wanted, and I just want to remind you, if you've looked at the first two shows where I looked at some of the rugs in the rug show, Cream City, there were no notes or plaques next to the work to tell you who the designer was or who had done the piece. So it's not that I am omitting that willfully. The information was not there. So I don't have that for you, but all I can say is, whoa, this is so pretty. Beautiful take on a Klimt, right? I think that this might be one taken from one of Klimt's. Do you remember if you took the Klimt class, he did a bunch of paintings that were for public spaces, right? He loved public spaces. That was like built into his DNA. And he got the opportunity to do some original work for the university in Vienna. I think it was Vienna. And they rejected all of the pieces that he submitted because they considered them pornographic. Hey, Tad, you logged on. Good job. Tad, that's the name of the new book you have coming out too, isn't it? Is it Jazz with a Beat? That's the title of the book. Um, Exciting to see you. I'm glad you're there. I really need to come see you too. My schedule is really lightening up, which is exciting for me. Yes, right. So check that out on Amazon. Ted has a book coming out that's called Jazz with a Beat. It looks absolutely amazing. You have to check it out. I will be checking it out, and I'll certainly be talking about it. Even though it's not a rug book, I'm certainly going to be talking about it. So Klimt did this series of paintings that were considered pornographic, and the reason they were considered, they were nudes, right? There's a lot of nude content in these paintings, but they were for a university, and you think in that kind of a setting with a lot of academic people, they're going to be very broad-minded. It's not going to be a thing. Well, it was a thing, and the reason that Klimt's work was always a thing with his public at that time was because he painted. Painting nudes isn't the problem. Painting nudes in the kind of detail with the flesh tone, with the pink cheeks, nipples, lips, fingertips, everything, that's a problem. So nudes not a problem, flesh color detail, there's the problem. So I feel like this is a crop of one of those university paintings, and I think that those are lost at this point. The university, he had to sue to try to get the paintings back, and I think he wasn't successful. And then I feel like, I might be remembering this wrong, but I feel like they were lost during the Second World War. And considered, since they were considered pornographic, they were considered very low value, but somebody wanted them enough to steal them, which is always kind of ironic. So this must have been because we're seeing, is it two? Let me see, is it two or three? We're seeing two Klimts in a row, so maybe it's the same person experimenting with both, although the hooking looks very different, doesn't it? It might have been a class or it might have been a challenge within the Cream City group, but aren't they lovely? I'm just noticing on this bottom one, there seems to be a braid running down the front of it. Lots of three-dimensional bling, which is very, very consistent with Klimt's look. I like them both very much. On this top one, I like them both very, very much. On the top one, I like the kind of lack of detail in the face, right? She's a bit of a phantom, a bit more ghostly for me. I really like that. But then this bottom one with the detail looks very, very Klimt, doesn't it? Very sort of aggressive profile. He loved doing like his Joan of Arc characters. He loved strong women. He loved women in armor. There's probably other stuff going on now that I'm saying this out loud. It does sound like there's some other stuff going on here, but he loved, his father was like a jeweler, like a metalsmith, and he loved his metallics, his golds and silvers and coppers and all that. Really beautiful. That next one I'm going to hold on because I think that's in a future slide. Oh, wait a minute. I just missed some, hold on one second. I just missed some comments. Well, Diva, I think that is Cindy Irwin's. I saw something very much like that at Manistee 2 years ago. Interesting. Oh, it could well be. Is she from the Wisconsin area, Wisconsin, Michigan, that kind of thing, or not so much? She doesn't have to be for it to be in the show. Interesting. Sharon says, I love this. I have a bunch of Swarovski and freshwater pearls, and I would love to incorporate into it. It's really good to think about hitting up Klimt for stuff like that, isn't it? Or holiday stuff, right? If you like the holidays and you make for the holidays, either would work really, really, really well. I like that idea too. For me personally, and we're all different, thank God, right? But I really like bling when I feel like it fits the subject. I'm not a bling for bling's sake person, like by any means. But I think with Klimt, it's like absolutely, you double down with the bling. Because he certainly did not, he was not chintzy in his use of like gold leaf and like real metallic content. So interesting. Her design, don't know who, oh, I see what you mean. It might be her design. Gotcha. That makes sense. I'll have to check that too. I know the name. I don't know. I'm ashamed to say I don't know her work that well. I need a few more hours in the day, but I might get them soon. So this is another really pretty rug. Oh, I was just reading. I get by with a little help from my friends. Cha cha cha. Love this. I just love this. There's so many things I like about this. I always love a rug that functions as a sampler. Um, with this kind of thoughtful breakdown, right? This is like the Hollywood Squares breakdown for rug hooking composition. But I really love 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I was wondering how many blocks we had. It looks like it could be going through the seasons of the year, or at least many of the seasons of the year. There's lots of leaves, sunset, eggs, tokens of spring. Could just be spring actually, now that I'm looking at it. Not seeing autumn or winter. Could just be spring. Remember there was another rug in this show. Oh, it says Ruth Moore. Does it say Ruth Moore on the bottom? Let me pull that open. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe. Why does my mouth even open? Because I can't see anything. Hang on. Let me see if I can make this a little bit larger. And maybe we have a clue on this rug. No, she's from Pennsylvania. Oh, I see. And she hooked 2 dresses totally studded with beads. That sounds amazing. What does that say? Cream City rug hookers. Oh my God. I thought it said bus something. Okay. It might be a day that I take a nap. Let's see how it goes. I got to take Teddy hiking. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller again. Let's look at these squares for another minute because I think they really are so charming. I love the breakdown of the squares. Do you remember there was another rug that we talked about either last Wednesday or Friday where I said, gosh, is this just like, this is seasonal, but I'm not seeing all 4 seasons. I'm wondering if they did like challenges where they were like seasonal challenges or something. I wish I knew the themes, you know? I wish I knew the themes. I really love the border on this rug too. Really, really cute. I thought it was a picket fence and now I'm thinking it's like birds' houses. Really colorful, very, okay, I think I got it. I got it. Okay, hang on. One more sip of nutty pumpkin coffee, and I got it. This is the rug. I was chatting with the lady there. She said that one year, I guess it's 2020, the Cream City Rug Hooking Guild, everybody designed a square and then exchanged the drawing of the square, so the pattern, and then compiled them into rugs that included everybody else's squares. Quilters do this all the time, making friendship quilts, right? So the Cream City Rug Hooking Guild did this too. This is totally what this is. Absolutely remember this conversation now. So that makes a lot of sense. So each person designed a different block. Thank you, Dunkin' Donuts. So beautiful, and such a great token of friendship as well, right? I feel like we've seen this pattern before. I love this pattern. I love the breakdown of color here. It's really, really good to see the oranges with the blues and the purples, right? Very complementary. Color-wise, it's very limited amount of colors, but it looks very colorful. The use of color is really scattered, isn't it? It's very fragmented because the wings of what's probably a dragonfly or something like that. I know we've had this conversation before too. It's broken up like a Tiffany stained glass lamp or window. So we have a lot of outlining and space filling, and it is done so expertly. That this is a great example of a composition of multiples that has a limited color palette that remains super interesting, very easy to read, very colorful, very pleasing. Just a beautiful, beautiful composition. I'm not a fan of circular compositions, just because I always feel like it's a bit of a challenge to display them, especially when you have a lot of stuff up already. But this breaks the mold for me. This really is an extraordinary piece. I really, really love the composition. the way the two little tails in this center are kind of intertwined too is really beautiful. Ted says, I love the three eggs in the nest variations on. Yeah, that I was thinking which one I liked the best too. I agree. The robin's nest is really eye catching. I like the little bonsai tree to the bottom right of it as well. I like all of them. The owl is cute. They're all very, very cute. And of course, it's always going to depend on who's hooking it as well, right? Um, this was a big rug, but it wasn't a huge rug. It was like bigger than a welcome mat size, but it wasn't enormous. And I'm amazed at the detail that the hooker got with the Cream City rug hookers, right? That's really good detail. Those little windows and stuff in the bottom middle is probably one loop. But yeah, some of these on their own are really interesting. This is just great. Maybe we should do this in art. Well, I'm going to leave that for the moment because Jean she's got a current rug exchange going. So we'll have to see if it's something we might want to do in the future. It would be fun to exchange some blocks between ourselves in our group too. This was another one I was having a conversation about. I absolutely love this piece. I think this was my favorite one in the show. There was a challenge on this particular year to do something with the hippo. So I just loved this idea. It reminds me of the hippo that is the mascot for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You know who I mean? The blue hippo. I feel like his name is William or something like that. I might be wrong, but there is I feel like there's a hippo mascot for the Met, and it reminded me of that, right? It reminded me of kind of like a hippo of antiquity, but really, really beautiful. And I guess they went through the year with hippo images, right? Using hippos in different months. And I said to the woman I was talking to, God, I so wish that I could see that there was a book or something and that I could see all 12 of them. I'm gonna have to check out their Cream City website and see if they're on there. And if so, I'll make a whole show out of it. I'll do that later. But I just love the way that this is so perfect for September. The hippo bus. Just notice the spiral that's wrapped into, this must have been a project, right? How do you train for this? Wrapping a giant, it's a series of spirals, right? Wrapping a series of spirals into the side of your hooked rug, right? This is gonna bring up some choice words, I'm sure, but in the end it worked out beautifully. It's on a beautiful piece of composition paper. I love the hippo bus. I love the silhouettes of the children. And I love the traffic sign that's be careful, there's children crossing, back to school. So good, isn't it? I really love this rug. I am going to go down the rabbit hole and see what else I can find out about these hippos because I feel like we should do a whole hippo show. This is a very nice one too. I didn't get a great picture of it. For some reason, the light was almost too good. I'm going to stretch it for you in a minute. This is an exceptional piece that combines both fine rug hooking and braiding. And not just braiding, but you see how there is a kind of a braided knot that is coming. Maybe that, oh God, remember the cobweb, the Halloween cobweb we looked at probably on last Wednesday? And we were saying, I wonder if there is an extra stitch at those intervals where the braid goes up, right? Where the cobweb goes up in a little point. I bet it's exactly the same technique. I bet that this is a class or that someone was doing this. And I bet the cobweb was the product for one person and the bunnies was the product for another person. But I bet that's exactly what they're doing. It was not clear at all with black on black when we looked at the photo of the cobweb rug, but it's very clear here that there is an extra stitch in the braiding, right? It's actually coming up out of it to make that extra stitch. It's way more three-dimensional, and it is changing the shape of the rug because there's an extra stitch, right? That's interesting. That's what we needed to solve that mystery. That Harry, designed by Sally Kalin, but I don't, but, so that's Harry. So Harry is the hippo? Is Harry the hippo? Interesting. I'm going to just take a picture of that comment so I can search for that later. I need to cue myself or my brain doesn't remember. There we go. Got it. I also love the braided edge. So let's look at this a little bit closer. It looks like there's some proddy happening here too. So a mixture of techniques. I'm going to run a little bit over. So I'm sorry, my photo quality is not that good and my phone is excellent. That's it. Hair. Okay. Hair. I was like, hold on. Okay, the hair. Okay, gotcha. So this is Sally Kalin's design. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much. So pretty, and done with very, very soft palette, right? For me, this is like a classic sort of promo gown palette. Very, very, very soft colors, that light kinds of bronzy greens with the varieties of pinks, and just very, very gentle composition, really soft and beautiful, perfectly framed with colored wool, right? Very graphic on the outside, very painterly on the inside. It's absolutely a beautiful piece. I wish my camera took a better picture. It was almost catching too much texture, but it is obviously a really lovely piece, and it does look like there is a row of simple proddy, just leaves around the edge of the piece, which is a fantastic join to the braided part, right? Because that is always tricky, connecting we should maybe do some videos on this, connecting a hook drug to start the braid around the edge, right? Starting the braid around it. This is a great way to join, is to give it a little flourish before you start hitting the tracks of braids, right? Absolutely beautiful. Thanks for the help with the sighting on that one as well. This is another beauty. I just love the feel of it. It's got funny tension for me here, because what do you think these are? These are not guinea hen. This is some kind of chicken, right? Something like that. Was a beautiful combination for sure. I love the shape of the birds with the central flower, right? Really, really, really fitting. And it's very round, right? This is a composition made up of big fat shapes, and then like confetti, like peppering the whole background. We've got a bunch more circles done in all these different colors, some of them heathery, some of them solid. Really, really unusual. And despite the busyness of the composition, because if you can picture this drawn out on backing, you'd look at it and maybe it would back you up a little, and you'd think, whoa, there's a lot here. Well, it's in the way that it's hooked, isn't it? Right? We have a lot of unity of color here. We've got a lot of neutral, right? The birds are for the most part gray, and so that's a neutral, so that's good. Now that yellowy background is kind of that farmhouse yellow or kitcheny yellow, is a very warm yellow, and it's functioning as a neutral here in the background. And then all of the different shades of red. There's room for all the different shades of red, and they're echoing the combs on the birds. So it's all falling together really nicely. And if there's one word that pops into mind when I see this, it's round. All of these rounded shapes, very comfortable in a rug that is a stretched rectangle, right? So there's a little bit of tension there too. Here's a stretched rectangle. You expect it to be geometric and angular, and you've got all these soft round shapes on the inside. Really interesting. Kaz, I'll see you next time. Really interesting. Another beautiful rug. And again, I so wish that I had information to cite some of this stuff for you. It was all interesting. Another great use of bling here. Now, this reminds, is that Tetley? Does that say Tetley? Let me look at this. Let's look at this closer up. I'm going to stretch this. Oh, there's two here. All right, let me stretch this out a little bit. And I feel like this is an advertisement. Hang on, I held on too tight. Oh, I just noticed she has that beautiful brooch on her turban. Isn't that fantastic? And a bunch of charms. I really like this. I literally just said, I'm usually not a fan of bling. This is another, for me, exception. This makes a lot of sense. All these swirls, right? It's like fortune telling or tea leaves, market pantry, it says. I feel like this, I've seen this image before. It could be on an old poster, an old piece of advertising, but there is something magical happening in the cup. It reminds, I think it's meant to be like reading tea leaves, right? And all of this kind of swirly genie in the lamp type movement coming out of the cup with all of these charms dangling on it. So beautiful. Perfect use of these charms. Hey, Kara, good to see you. I really like this piece. I really like this piece. And it's so expressive, right? The character's face is very expressive. It looks a bit worried too. So it's like, what is the fortune? That pin on the turban really is amazing. It has that butterscotch kind of quality to it. It really, it looks like it has maybe red stones set around it. It's doing really well with this mixed red background. You notice that the red background changes color from very, very bright primary red to more of a tomato soup color. Really smart. There's great, very mysterious highlighting on the face, right? It's a little bit graphic. It's a little bit realistic. For me, it hits that balance perfectly. It's right on that sort of balance beam of perfection, right? It's got just the kind of details I like to see, with still a lot of artistic choices being made here about how much detail to keep in and how much to leave out. Just a fabulous piece. And then this smaller piece was under it, which is another, oh, look at that sweet face, another very different piece. And without, let me make this a little bit smaller now. Without information, I don't know anything about it. But it is obviously a portrait, right? It's got a great three-dimensional quality, whether that is yarn or, yeah, it's probably yarn. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's a great portrait. It's really, really unusual. I'm just looking at the hooking too. It looks very, very wide on her neck and her lapels. Looks very, very wide. She looks like an older person for sure, but she also looks like a great storyteller. Like there is a lot to be said for this character. I wish I knew who this is. She's got beautiful eyes. Beautiful. So lots of interesting rugs, lots of different subjects. This is another neat one. So somebody was hooking into a backing that is not one of our traditional backings. It looks like linen, but I don't think it was linen. Of course, you can hook into anything that your loops will stay in, right? You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you which backings are appropriate. If you are hooking into, like I'm going to do with that sweater that I picked up at the beginning of the episode, if you're hooking loops and your loops are staying and it's secure, then you're good. You hook into whatever you can find that works. I like this because it's different. We don't often see pieces where the background is still exposed, right? We're all about covering up and doing a complete fill. But in this case, it's hanging very well. The part that's been picked out is the part that we're seeing is the main subject, the witch, the moon, and the Halloween cat. Really nice. Oh, I got quite a few more to go. I might pause after this one and just tack these to another episode. I know we make them linger, don't we? But you know what this reminds me of? Well, a couple of things first. I love the size of the moon, right? This giant harvest moon. It really accommodates that giant cat who's like all prickled out. Really sweet outlining of the head, big fat round head, right, on this little body. Super, super cute. He's got himself all in a dither and he's all fluffed out. I really like the red kind of swag going around her like a cape, right? I think that's really, really a good call. Lots of great detail, many colors in that. Unexpected. Red cape, right? Because red cape is usually associated with a medic or like early American nurse, right? But not always witches, right? Of course, medics and witches at some point in history, right, 200 plus years ago, are the same thing, right? You can slice it however you want. They are the same thing. People with knowledge of cures and herbs and materials that can be used in a medicinal way are both witches and medics, right? These two things overlap. So it's interesting to see the red cape as part of the costume. And it's also interesting to see the brown hat, because this is what we associate with a pilgrim's hat. Although we know for sure, right, these hats with the big buckles, this is not, and shoes with buckles, this is not part of the costume that the pilgrims would have worn. The pilgrims who came from England and then the Netherlands, right, and then across the ocean to Provincetown and then Plymouth, they were wearing the costume of the day, which was not giant buckles on your shoes and hats. So they wouldn't have been wearing them here. But interesting, right? It is like more of a cavalier type accessory, like the big buckles. But interesting, we certainly associate this costume with the settlement years in the U.S., even though it's not accurate. It's still charming, right? And it still hangs on because we've been looking at images like this forever. This has got to be a beautiful vintage Halloween image. I think it's just lovely. All of the information you need is there. It's friendly, it's cheerful. It has some interesting points that for me really stand out, like the red cape, like the brown hat. Also like the lace, right? The lace, like this is really a woman who, obviously she does have magical powers because she seems to be riding a broom. But I mean, it doesn't look like a stereotypical scary witch, right? She's got a beautiful, healthy, rosy, pretty face and complexion. And she's wearing costumes that have some kind of luxury feel to them, with the lace and the white stockings, right? The metal buckles. So just an interesting piece. And I know it's taken from a vintage piece, but it just reminds me of how useful it is to look at vintage art, because there are all kinds of little tokens of the past and little talking points that really are interesting and thoughtful. And it's just a great piece with the plain background showing. What it reminds me of, have you ever seen, starting in like the maybe 1930s, 1940s, companies in Asia used to, I'm thinking probably mostly China, used to manufacture partially made or started needlepoints. So needlepoints that had been started, and the hardest part would already be done for you, like the little Cotswold cottage would already be done for you. And I think they were done on machines. I can't be sure, but I have a lot of them. And they are on backings that are cross stitch, but they look a little bit like this because the cross stitch is so small, right? In some cases, petty point and not traditional needle point. And I have a lot of these, and these backings, you can find them on eBay. It'll say like, I'm trying to think of how, because I used to collect them. My idea was to buy, and I did, buy like tons of these partially made or pre-made vintage, that's a big word, cushions, right? And it's usually like a cottage or spray of flowers, that kind of thing. And my idea was that when you get a Cotswold cottage, it's just what you're picturing, right? It's like a little cottage that's all brown with a little funky roof, and it's very soft. It's very Midsummer Murders, right? It's very just that. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to get a whole ton of, this was years ago, this was like 15 years ago, to get a whole ton of them. And the part that's not finished is the background. So the hard part, whether sometimes it's an animal. I have a few that are like dogs and cats and things like that too. But I thought, let me get a whole bunch of these and hoard them. And then I'm going to finish the back of them in very unexpected, like neon colors, which I did a little of, like getting like bright, like safety vest orange, or, fluorescent yellow, like really bright colors, and finish the background because it's so unexpected. And then I got bored with it and I never finished them into pillows. But I thought it was a cute idea. And that's what that piece reminds me of, because when you receive those pieces in the mail, they are partially done. Whew, it's making me hot. I'm out of focus again. They are partially done, and the fan's not hitting me fast enough. This must be one of the you-know-whats. It's fun to think about how to finish them that matches your room. So I think that's why they were unfinished. The hard part would be done, but you could have this really cool cushion with beautiful little house, well articulated in petty point, and then you could do the dummy part, just fill in the background with whatever color blue, right, your walls where your wallpaper was. And then people could say, oh, did you make that pillow? And you could legitimately say, well, yes, I did, with your fingers like half crossed, right? So it reminds me of one of those, really cute. But I have about 8 more of those photos. So I'm going to get going because I've got to do a bunch of videos for you today with the Advent calendar stuff. So I'm going to get going on that. I'm going to try to pop out 2 videos by the end of the day before I have to go pick up Teddy, which is in an hour and a half. So let's see how much I get done. I will see you on Friday for gallery night. Please send me some images of the stuff that you're working on, so we have some stuff to talk about for gallery night. And I will look forward to seeing you at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. I will look forward to seeing you on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our next gallery night, and and we will do that last little bit of the Cream City show next time we have a little slot. At some point, maybe we should cover my first book, which I hate doing. I hate talking about my big projects like that. It's not that I hate it. I just feel like and yeah. So I'm thinking about how to do that, because it's like not super appropriate to review my own book. I don't know if Kirsten's on, but I said to Kirsten, do you ever feel like, because Kirsten's one of my close buddies, and she does a lot with Ribbon Candy Hooking, and her patterns are available on Ribbon Candy Hooking. And I said, do you ever feel like doing like a double live with me where we're both in windows, where instead of me talking about my book, right, because I'm going to frame it in a certain way because I wrote the book, right? I don't mean positive or whatever. I don't mean that. I just mean I don't think outside the box with my own project, where she might say, oh, I want to ask a specific question about this technique or this chapter that I would never think of. So she said she would do that with me, and I forgot. So I'm going to ask her this afternoon if she would do that with me, because I would like, in a conversation reviewing my book, I would like to not host that conversation because I feel like, what's the point? I already said it all in the book. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons I haven't reviewed the book yet. So we'll see if she's still up for that and if she wants to do that. I don't want to give anybody an extra project. So I'll see if she's up for that. And then one of these days we can look at that book because, yeah, I only look at it here and there, just flash through it because it honestly is like, it was a very breakdowny time, and like it was just a lot. So when I look at it, it triggers all that. But once in a while, when I'm in a good mood, I flip through it and I go, oh, that really is a good book. That's a good looking book, if I do say so myself. So we'll cover that soon. And I know some people have asked for it. And I am not ignoring those emails. I'm just thinking about how to do it in a way that I don't feel like I'm tooting my own horn a ton and in a way that the questions would be interesting, right? And that, yeah, it'd be a good episode. We'll see what happens. Um, it is a good book. I do like the book. I really do. I will see you all on Friday. Ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. Make sure you send me some stuff. I don't have a ton of stuff for the episode yet, so I'll be waiting for more stuff from you. And I will see you all Friday, 7 p.m.